This story has a content warning for sexual assault. Viewer discretion is advised. Don't make a fucking sound, bitch. I could feel him poke the tip of his knife into my lower back when he said this. I was frozen. Calm. Good girl, I heard him say as his other hand slid down the front of my pants, starting to slowly undo them. Still, I was calm. He wasn't very smart, I must say. For one thing, the fucker didn't even bother restraining my hands. Not to mention, if he'd started from the top, he might have found the butterfly knife I keep in my bra for this very reason. Needless to say, I don't live in a great area, and it gets far worse at night. Unfortunately, despite numerous attempts at getting my manager at the diner I serve at to change my hours to the mornings, there I was, working closing shifts. It also didn't help that my two other coworkers, one of them being the shift manager, just up and left as soon as they were finished with their duties instead of, waiting 2 more minutes for me to finish what I was doing so we could leave together. Maybe then this guy wouldn't have gotten as far as he was. Actually, a lot of things would be different right now if they'd stayed. From the corner of my right eye, I could see that his eyes were low, focused completely on my lower half. I felt his knife ease out of my back as he began undoing his pants. Now's my chance. In a fluid motion, I ripped the knife from my bra and swung at him. Sure enough, I'd managed to open a nasty gash in his cheek. He roared out in pain, cradling his face, and I took off into the street from the alley I was crossing through to get home. I only made it a foot away from the opening, though, before I felt my hair get snatched back and I was thrown to the ground. I landed face first onto the pavement, and I felt my nose get busted open. My vision exploded with stars, and everything instantly went into a blur. I was jerked from the ground again and hurled into the dumpster, my head once again taking the brunt of the impact. Now I felt my body start to go limp, and I was slowly fading in and out of consciousness. Everything seemed to spin and twist around me, and my hearing was muffled, like they'd had a ton of cotton forced into them. Despite this, I can still remember hearing the next words out of his mouth, his voice seething with an animalistic rage. You little cunt! Oh, I'm gonna break you every which way before I paint this fucking dumpster red. I couldn't see much, but I still distinctly remember the way his eyes almost seemed to glow a deep red when he said this. The bloodshot veins spiderwebbing his eyes and pulsating. I made out only very faint features of his face, as he didn't bother wearing a mask. Like I said, he wasn't smart. Strong as hell, enough to break me in half without breaking a sweat, but not smart. I saw that he was pale white, tall, at least 6 foot, and bald, wearing a black tank top. He had some tattoo on his right arm, the one now brandishing a knife, but I couldn't make it out, even when he held the knife up to my throat as he pinned me to the dumpster. You taste good, he said, licking some of the blood from my broken nose. I then felt him thrust his knife into my abdomen. I could only squeak a weak moan, still feeling so dizzy that my brain was only barely registering the pain. I felt him twisting the blade inside me, teasing me. Yeah, you feel that? You like that? He then leaned into my ear and whispered with a menacing chuckle. Now, don't you wish you'd have taken it like a good girl? Even though I was still dizzy, I still found that my knife was still very loosely gripped in my left hand. He continued thrusting his blade in and out of my wound, slowly going deeper and deeper with each one. With all the possible strength I could summon, I tightened my grip on my own knife before quickly embedding it to the hilt in his neck. Instantly, I felt the knife leave my stomach, and I could hear him start coughing and wheezing. Very faintly, I watched his blurred form grab at his throat and painfully pull out my knife before collapsing, unmoving. After a couple seconds, the short burst of adrenaline wore off, and I began trying to stumble out of the alleyway. Every part of me was racked with pain, and it felt like the wound in my stomach was tearing further and further the more I tried to walk. I managed to make it all the way out of the alley and even out into the street when all of a sudden I saw bright lights light up the area around me. I couldn't hear anything, but from the corner of my left eye, I could see 2 large, blinding high beams coming straight for me. Of course, by the time my brain would actually register any of this, it would be too late. My mind was screaming at my body to move, but for whatever reason, either because of the pain or the sheer chaos of everything going on, I just couldn't. The lights got closer and closer, and I closed my eyes, bracing for impact. That's when I blacked out altogether, but the thing is, I didn't feel the car hit me. Actually, I couldn't feel anything at all. I don't know if I was actually unconscious or what, but I couldn't see, hear, or feel anything for a while. When I did become conscious, or maybe aware is a better word for it, I was seated down in the back seat of a car going slowly down a deserted nighttime highway. My vision was still a bit blurred, so all I could see was the orange streaks of street lamps as we rapidly passed them by. Everything was dark all around me, so I had to feel around to get my bearings. I noticed that the seats weren't normal. Instead of the usual polyester or leather padding, they were hard and cold, metallic almost. Even the seat I was in felt like this, making it pretty uncomfortable. Slowly, my eyes started adjusting back to normal. I saw the shadowed outline of a person in the driver's seat. Where? I stammered weakly, my head still racked both from confusion and a migraine. I could feel my heart steadily increase, and my head started jerking in every direction. Where am I? What happened? Silence. When I leaned to tap the driver's shoulder to get his attention, however, a sharp series of pains shot through me from the area in my stomach, causing me to seize up and cry out.
I wouldn't advise trying to move much again.
I heard a voice, seemingly coming from inside my head, raspingly whisper to me. I immediately froze. What the
Don't panic. It won't do you any good to panic. Actually, it will make it much more painful for you to panic now. Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you, Alma.
Now, I really was anxious. Who is this? How the hell do they know my name?
Who I am is whoever you see me as. I am something different, and have gone by many different names from many different people. I have been around for quite a while, and know most of everything, including who you are.
If that was meant to answer any of the 1,000 different questions buzzing around in my head at that moment, mission failed. Now, all new questions were coming to me, swarming my head furiously, and I thought my head would twist right off my neck with as much as it was spinning. I tried again to lean forward, trying to see if I could get a look at the driver again. Like last time, though, the pain shot through me again, this time feeling like a bunch of shards of glass were being pushed into my stomach.
I told you it wasn't a good idea to move.
What's going on? I was confused, needless to say. What was that poking me? Why did it hurt to move? I moved my hands down to feel my stomach. When I felt something wet, my eyes went wide and I looked down and almost went hysterical. There, right in the middle of my stomach, was a wide, open red gash with blood slowly flowing out of it. I started hyperventilating. My lungs felt starved, like fish on a hook. How the hell did I end up with a hole in my stomach? What the hell happened?
Calm down. It will come back to you much easier that way.
Where the fuck are you coming from? I screamed, throwing my head in every direction. I didn't see anything except the interior of the car, no trace of anyone speaking.
I'm inside of you. I'm a part of you, Alma. I'm the single biggest guarantee in existence. You know who I am. You just haven't accepted the truth yet. But you will soon enough.
I began trying frantically to open the door to no avail. The door felt like it'd been welded shut. The next thing I tried was to use all of my strength to bash furiously on the window to try and break it. Whatever they were made of, however, must have been bulletproof because they weren't at all fazed by my assaults.
As if that would actually work, and you could leave. What good would it do you now? You can't even lean forward without racking with pain.
I finally stopped then. He was right. Even if I could escape, I was basically a stuck pig, barely able to stand, let alone walk or run. I slowly sank back into my seat. My mind was racing with a million different questions all at once, none of them seeming to have much, if any, logical answers. Finally, I composed myself enough to ask, "Where am I?"
What do you see?
A cab, I guess? That doesn't answer my question,
Sure it does.
The voice interrupted.
Think about what I've said. About how I am. Who or whatever you see me as.
I stayed quiet. I was still lost. Not a damn thing this voice was saying made any sense. Not to mention, I was still trying to figure out just who the hell was speaking in the first place. What does it mean by, "I'm the biggest guarantee in existence"?
You said you see a cab.
Yeah, why?
Interesting. I suppose that hasn't been said before.
What hasn't? By who? Look, never mind, just let me out now. I was starting to lose my patience as well as my wits. I might have been 2 seconds from a psychotic episode when I was reminded that I couldn't move or leave the vehicle, wincing in pain as I made the mistake of leaning forward again.
Where would you go?
I don't know. The hospital? I heard the voice let out a hoarse, raspy hiss that I think was supposed to be a laugh.
The hospital? And what would they be able to do? You'd likely bleed out before they could even prep the procedure. Never mind that, with what you make, and no insurance. Good luck trying to afford it.
As much as I hated it, the voice was right. Everything it said was dead on. I wouldn't be able to afford surgery. I probably would bleed out before they could even get me on the table. And again, I couldn't move much at all without seizing in excruciating pain.
Just relax. Everything will go over a lot smoother if you'll just take it easy.
With no other idea of what the hell to do, I relaxed in my seat. My mind was still spinning, but my body was still. Okay, I'm calm. Now, can I get some answers? What's going on here?
Isn't it obvious? You've gone for a ride.
I heard that raspy laugh again, and he said,
You could even say you're on the ride of your life.
Okay, smartass, but how did I get here?
You remember nothing. Well, I suppose you are special, given that you think you're in a cab right now. You must still not be in that phase yet.
I have to say, if it weren't for the pain, I'd have probably hurled myself into the front and strangled the driver. This isn't funny. What the fuck is going on? Where am I, and where are you taking me?
Forgive me. Usually they get it by now. I've never had to explain it before.
Get what? I heard the voice sigh and say,
1 second.
Suddenly, the car turned a bend into a neighborhood. I watched as we parked across the street from a small, old-looking house that looked like it was 2 seconds away from falling apart.
This will only take a moment.
The voice said, and the driver got out of the car and made his way over to the house. I tried again to see the driver's face, but it was no good. Whether it was the night itself or the queer lack of streetlights, especially being that this was a residential area, I couldn't see any defining features about the driver, other than he seemed to be male, judging from his outline. Outside of this, the only other thing I saw was he wore a chauffeur hat. Nothing else was distinguishing. I saw him walk up to the house and immediately open the door, letting himself in. No doorbell, no knocking, nothing, just barging right in. My eyes went wide at this. Who the fuck does this guy think he is? What was he even doing just breaking into random people's houses like that? More importantly, why were we even here to begin with? I guess, ironically, probably not even 2 seconds after that question entered my mind, I then saw him walking back to the car with a small girl and an old lady side by side with him. I saw the door to the seat next to me open, and they climbed inside. Excuse me, what the hell are you doing? Who are they? I got no reply as the driver got back into the car and peeled out of the neighborhood. I turned to look at the woman and the girl. Neither of them seemed to notice me, just staring forward blankly. I even tried shaking the old lady. Nothing. Hello?
They can't see or hear you.
What do you mean?
They aren't in the same phase as you. They also don't see me the way you do.
Seriously? Phase? What are you talking about? Phase? What the fuck is that even supposed to mean? My heart rate started spiking again, and it became harder and harder to hold back the urge to try lunging for the driver again.
They're dead. There. Does that spell it out for you?
The voice hissed an annoyed sigh again. Dead? I nearly shouted, eyes about to shoot from their sockets. What do you mean they're dead? What the fuck did you do?
I did nothing. In fact, nobody did anything to them. Mrs. Renee there, well, it was her time. Long overdue, though. I hadn't been able to get to her before. And sweet little Felicia. She was lost in the woods when she passed. On the run, I believe, from some maniac that had killed her mother and father. She seemed to find Mrs. Renee's house and hid. But of course, with no one around to care for her, and no food or water, well, here she is.
I was frozen in my seat, my jaw slacked and blood chilled. How does he know this? There was no way this guy was serious, was there? I turned again to look at them and screamed. In the glow of the passing street lamps, I saw that both of their faces were gray, pale, and cold-looking. Their eyes were also gray, empty, and completely devoid of any color. No, this isn't real, No, this is just a bad dream, right? Yeah, come on, Alma, wake up. Come on, wake up. I started slapping myself hard. Wake the fuck up.
You'll never learn, will you?
The voice chided condescendingly. I tried biting my hand, hopelessly trying to prove I was just in the middle of a vivid nightmare and that I'd wake up the next morning and laugh it off as just that, a stupid nightmare. Eventually, though, the pain shooting through my hand from this, causing blood to gush from the web of my thumb and index finger, forced me to stop. I started heaving as I felt the bile rise from my stomach. Why? I couldn't even form a complete thought from the way my head spun like a globe.
Why what?
Why am I seeing this? Why are you showing me this?
I already told you. I'm not doing anything to you or anyone else. What's happened to them is done, out of my hands completely. I'm just the one that picks them up for one last ride.
What do you mean, last ride? Where are you taking them?
Beyond, sweetheart. I'm taking them into the beyond.
Where's that? What is that?
You sure do ask a lot of questions. Yet, you haven't taken a single moment to stop, take a breath, and actually try figuring this out for yourself.
That tore it. I was done just sitting there while this fuckhead taunted me with all this cryptic horseshit. I threw myself at the driver, the adrenaline rush allowing me to ignore the pain. As soon as I grabbed his shoulders, I started shaking him violently, trying to bash his head on the steering wheel or something. This caused the car to start jerking from side to side, almost running off the road. But I couldn't have cared less if I'd tried. I was just releasing every bit of bottled up frustration and anxiety in that moment, not even trying for an answer anymore. I noticed how light he felt, like he was an empty shell. A new wave of shock hit me like a moving train. However, when I saw his head loll over limply to lock eyes with me, his head was just a clean, lifeless, bleached, white skull, its mandible hanging open wide like mine. My entire body seized up in a uniformed convulsion, forcing me back into my seat. The voice chuckled hoarsely again.
Are you done blowing off steam now?
I didn't answer. I couldn't answer. My mind was now completely blank. I was torn between wanting to cry and wanting to laugh like a damn lunatic. In the end, I ended up doing both.
I tried to warn you. Panicking would only make this all harder for you. I guess I can't be too hard on you, though. Most others don't take the truth well, either. At least now you get it, yes?
Again, I stayed silent. What was I supposed to say? I'd already realized I wasn't dreaming, and I couldn't leave. In a rather ironic twist, almost like God's own morbid attempt at humor, somehow the reality of the situation still felt unreal to me, as if there was still hope that I'd wake up tomorrow and everything would be the way it was before. Finally, my madness seemed to settle down a bit, and I worked up the stomach to ask one burning question. The burning question. What happened?
What's the last thing you remember?
I closed my eyes and tried to think as hard as possible. Pain? I whispered. I remember a sharp pain. Suddenly, a flurry of images swept across my mind like slides on a projector. I saw the twinkling glints of something metallic in the dark, as well as the freely flowing stream of crimson, of blood, and I could feel the sensations again of something penetrating my stomach. I was stabbed. I remember being stabbed, I said, almost with a sense of triumph. I was stabbed in an alley.
Atta girl. Now you're getting somewhere.
That's when the entire scene started to replay in my mind. I saw it all again, felt it all again. The dark alley in between the diner and the apartment complex. The cold, bitter night breeze, the jabbing in my lower back, the impact of my head hitting the dumpster, everything. I winced, moving my hands over the bleeding gash in my stomach, remembering the feeling of the blade thrusting into it. I was pulled into an alley and attacked.
And then...
I remembered the huge, bald man, his bloodshot eyes as he twisted the knife inside of me. You feel that? You like that? I fought back, and he stabbed me. I got him, though, and I got away. Then I saw two giant orbs. I began to choke with tears. Headlights.
We have a winner. Congratulations. You finally figured it out.
I trailed off, looking to the two next to me.
Not quite. You've still got a bit of time before you've hit their phase. Not long, obviously, but still a little bit of time.
I slumped into the seat. Tears began flowing freely down my cheeks. Tears of horror, tears of sadness, of confusion, and of just realization of the cold, hard truth. I was dead. Or at least not living anymore. Even if I wasn't completely gone yet, like Mrs. Renee or little Felicia, I was still dead, nonetheless.
And now we've finally passed into acceptance.
I just wept silently. I wanted to go berserk then to shut him up, but what was the point? He was right about everything. I had tried to deny it, and now it was that much more painful to accept because of it. What's gonna happen now? I squeaked out pitifully.
Well, soon you'll feel yourself crossing over. Passing on, as you call it. At that point, you'll be ready for our last stop.
Where's that?
The beyond. Where you'll go from there, I can't say. Like I said before, I'm just the one that brings you there when it's time.
How will I...
Lean forward.
I did, and winced. This time, though, I noticed that the pain was less extreme than before. Now it felt more like a simple stomach cramp than a stab wound. I noticed, too, that the blood had coagulated and wasn't flowing out anymore.
When you can't feel that hole in your stomach anymore, then you'll have fully passed on.
For a while after that, we just rode in complete silence. I think that was also the first time I noticed that there were absolutely no sounds inside the car. not even the sound of the engine running. My mind was swimming with questions. Questions that, for whatever reason, I couldn't seem to force myself to voice. What's going to happen to my body? What is the beyond, and what's going to happen to me there? Who's even going to know? I don't have any living family, and I'd lost contact with any friends I had long ago. Would I even have a funeral? Or would I just be forgotten, left to rot in the alleyway like with Mrs. Renee and Felicia at the house? One question, however, did find its way out of my head and from my mouth. Why am I here, with you, with them, in this cab if I'm not gone yet? Why didn't you just leave me where I was? This time, it actually took a minute for him to respond.
I suppose.
I heard him begin, noticing for the first time since we'd been talking a sense of sympathy in his voice. It was almost like he genuinely felt sorry that he had to say what he did, the way a doctor would when they have to break the news that their loved one didn't make it.
I suppose because I knew you wouldn't have long. I wanted you to have one last ride, one last chance.
For what?
To see the world, the clear sky, the cool breeze, rustling the lush green trees. To see the sunrise one last time, and take that with you into the beyond. A last memory of beauty.
I looked out of my window and felt another tear roll down my face. He was right again. It was beautiful. I could see the orange sky as the sun was just beginning to peek out above the horizon. I saw the trees whipping about with the rush of the first cool breeze of morning. I'll admit it, I hated myself more in that moment than ever before. It was all so beautiful, and I'd never seen it, never noticed it until now. Only now, as a soon-to-be ghost, did I see such beauty in something so simple. I mean, I used to laugh when people would ramble on about the beauty of nature, of the simple things, and other shit like that. Yet, here I was, beholding it for the first time, as well as the last. I think it's time I end this. The pain is almost completely gone now, and I can see my skin starting to turn gray like the other two. I'm writing this now while I'm still able to interact with a physical object so that maybe there'll still be a part of me left and people will know who I am. My name is Alma Prescott. I was born July 21st, 1998 in Gastonia, North Carolina. I graduated high school and left community college after a year and a half. I was never married, no children, and I worked as a waitress at the diner on the edge of town. I was the one some of the customers would sometimes flirt with, calling me Miss Rosy Cheeks. I won't lie, I'm still afraid of the beyond, what it's like and what's going to happen to me there. But maybe now that I have this all out, maybe I can take comfort that whatever happens, someone will know who I am and what happened. That I might not be completely forgotten. Maybe now I'll finally relax and watch the sunrise one more time. It's beautiful, isn't it?